What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of The Fletcher Show. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to be introducing to you guys today my friend, my broker, my coach, Anthony Askowitz. Thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
How are you?
For the invite. Pleasure.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. We're in the Remax content creation station as always, guys. And this is the chief of the tribe. He's the head of the whole organization. So super special treat to have him here today, guys. 30 years plus in real estate in Miami. Anthony is also a listing specialist. So for all of you listing agents or people who aspire to be listing agents, take out your pencil and paper and take some notes, all right? So let's jump right into it.
Ready.
So 30 years plus, right, since 1989 in Miami as a listing agent. Have you always been a listing agent?
From the get-go, when I first got my license, I walked into the office and learned very quickly that being a listing agent means a lot more. You can list multiple properties, market them, and go away on vacation. Come back, you may have a sale, you can use your, back in the day, you can use your phone, fax. Today, of course, with our smartphones, we can do so much more. But I also learned that a buyer you would spend about 32 hours with, a listing is 8. So the ratio is 4 to 1. So I could do 4 listings to basically one buyer, time-wise. And we only have so much time.
Right.
So
that's the one resource that you cannot get back. It's a finite amount and you can't get it back.
That's correct.
Yeah. You actually have a thing that, I don't know if you made it up or not, but you say, and you've said many times to us agents, that time does not equal money, contrary to what most people say, whereas, time is money, money. You always hear that cliche. But in reality, you could lose $100, you can make it back, right? The same day. If you lose an hour of your time, it's gone forever. Right. So I always found that was a very poignant thing, especially in the context of what we do as real estate agents, because there's so much going on in the world of real estate, and for each individual agent, it can sometimes be overwhelming. So to leverage your time and use it wisely is of utmost importance. And on that leverage topic, you also mentioned doing like A work, B work, C work, D work, wanting to do only the A work and, the things that are going to be paying the most, right? And then outsource the rest of it, right? So as a listing agent, would you say that there are any maybe misconceptions or assumptions of the general public that are selling their homes that you've kind of seen a common thread between?
I think answering that question, going back a little bit to understand that time with, and I'm going to answer your question.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing I want to point out, that with your time, when you do have a listing, you also have a time period that you've been given to get that property sold. You have an exclusive right. You have an agreement. That's also if you're working with a buyer, you can also sign a buyer's broker agreement, so you know that you have a time period with them. So when it comes to a listing, you have a responsibility. When you go on an appointment, you should be organized, ready to go. Your job is to explain, to educate, to talk about the process that they're about to go through. Remember, the seller, they're nervous. They haven't done it maybe ever, or they've been in the house 40 years. Things have changed. And they may be downsizing. They may be leaving the state. They have to understand, they should understand that you're part of the process, that you are there to help them, to reassure them, to be their go-to. But you also need to be rational and not emotional. Don't be emotional. It's not your sale. They're not hiring you to be emotional. They're hiring you to do a job. And that job is to get them the most money possible, the shortest period of time, with the least inconvenience. That's your job.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note, what would be some of those common threads that you've seen with sellers where maybe they thought something was going to be one way, or they had a certain expectation, but the reality is different, and that you'd maybe want to put out to the general public, anyone who might be thinking about selling out there, that might be helpful for them to know?
So in the contract itself, for example, when you do sell your home, there's so many different sections within the contract, from selling your house as is, that term, selling as is, what does as is mean? Well, as is means as of the day that you go under contract, that is how it is that day, is how it's supposed to be. So if you go under contract, Mr. Seller, on the 15th and your refrigerator breaks on the 18th, you have to bring it back to the condition that it was on the 15th. Little items, deposits, explaining to the seller how deposits work. Let's say in a rare instance that the buyer decides that they don't want to buy the house 30 days into it, explaining the contract, how it takes care of their deposit, how it's distributed back to them. Little things, but there's so many things that you as an agent can cover and help them with the whole process, and it's all in the contract. But knowing what each section of the contract means just makes you a better advocate for them.
Yeah. You know, I love contracts.
Yes, you do.
And, you know, there's so much minutia to the whole world of contracts, let alone the fact that there's different contracts. You know, a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
There's not just one real estate contract, you know, for residential sales here in Florida, we have, 5 contracts. And then in other states, they have their other own contracts. And, it gets crazy. So aside from the contract thing, is there anything else as far as, like, let me give you an example. Do you feel like maybe there are a lot of sellers who feel like their house didn't sell because of a certain reason, but it was actually another reason?
Yeah. So in the case of an expired, let's say someone put their house on the market 6 months later and it didn't sell. I find that there's 2 reasons primarily that home has not sold. One, which is easy, it's evident, the price. I was taught that if a home is priced right, it should sell anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. That's it. So that's item number 1. Item number 2 is more difficult. It's education. It's educating your seller as to what the motivation factor would be. If the idea is to maximize the exposure, to get as many people into this property as possible, you list a property for $400,000 and it's priced right. You know what? There's a possibility of getting $410,000. If you put yourself in a position, it's not just pricing. I mean, if you price it for example, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, early in my career, we used to price everything, let's say, at $399,900. It was psychological. It put you right below $400,000. Right. So today, you need a pricing strategy also. So if I was speaking with a seller, I would say instead of $399,900, let's do it at $400,000. Why 400? Well, any buyer who's looking from 350 to 400, it's captured. And if they're looking from 400 to 450, it's captured. Yeah. So people are going to do a lot of searches on the internet, and that is one way that they're going to find it. They're going to put in a price category. So if it's listed at $399,900, anyone looking from 400 to 450 will not find it. Yep. So having a strategy goes a long way. And if I may add one more thing. Go ahead. So I also see people price their home at $395,000, let's say. And I look at it and I think, wow, they gave away $5,000 before they ever started. The buyer will look at a house if it's at $395,000 or $400,000. It's the same range. So don't give away $5,000 before you ever start.
Unless that buyer was looking $400,000 and above, and then they wouldn't even see your $395,000.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. It's kind of like I've told my sellers, it's like tennis shoes pricing, right? $69.95 or whatever. That only works for tennis shoes.
Yes.
Retail items.
Agreed.
A house is not that type of sale. And there's more negotiation involved. Yes. In the United States of America, at least, you don't walk into Kmart and negotiate the price of the shoes, but with homes, it's a different story.
I could say in my 30 plus years in the business, I have seen everything, including if you sell this house, you get a cruise. You sell this house, you get a vacation on Miami Beach. So incentivizing an agent or giving a reason, builders, for example. Builders are a great example. Right now, there are many communities and high-rises coming out available right now. They are paying 4, 5, 6% just to the agent bringing the client.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incentive that they are incorporating in the sale.
Yeah.
But once again, there's no fixing of commissions, but understanding human nature and what is best for the client.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not setting anything in stone,
right.
Making someone do anything. It's an offer on the table,
correct,
essentially. And of course, for the people out there who are agents watching this, your sell to the sellers, your pitch to the sellers about a higher commission percentage isn't just about the property getting shown more. If you're an agent charging a higher than, we'll say normal, for lack of a better term, commission, you should also be a better than average agent, right?
You would hope so.
Yeah.
Because what you're also doing in that period of time, you're establishing that it's your property. You are going to pay for all the marketing, all the advertising, everything that's being done. And remember, we talked about time equal to money. Your time has a value. So it comes down to even an overpriced listing. If it's worth $380, do you take it at $550? So it's your time and what it's worth. There's also a funny saying in real estate that I learned. I don't know if you've ever heard it, and if this audience has heard it, that it's best to be the firstborn child, second spouse, and third real estate agent. And so oftentimes that, someone will take it at $550 because that's what the seller wanted to do. Well, it didn't sell. The next agent will get it for $500, and then the third will show the comps, show the sales, and will price it correctly, and bang, it'll sell. So you want to be the first agent. You want to educate your client through the sales that have occurred in the area. I know sellers oftentimes feel that their home is the best. They feel that they have more to offer. The ceiling with their etched mirrors above their bed, beautiful. I mean, really nice. But and this has happened. I said to the seller said, we spent thousands of dollars on our mirrors in our master bedroom above the bed with etching and beautiful. It was beautiful. And they wanted to put it in the price. I said, what percentage of the population wants to have a mirror above their bed? I mean, first of all, the older you get, you can't even see yourself in a mirror. And then, you have to weigh.
Yeah.
There's a certain value that every house can attain.
Yeah.
And mirrors or not necessarily going to increase the value, but nice frontage. People do judge a book by its cover.
Oh, yeah.
So the front of a house is so important to look good before you get in there. People are going to drive by, they're going to see it. The front door, key. The front of the house. Let's say there's four sides of a house. And the house kind of needs paint. I will say to the seller, just paint the front. You don't have to paint the sides or the back because the buyers aren't going to look at the sides and they're not going to walk back. By the time they get to the backyard, they've already decided to buy the house.
Yeah.
So it's really not going to make that big of a difference. So it goes to how you market your property. You want the front to have nice flowers, energy, and that front door has to be very clean. If it's painted, just wiped down, what have you, you want it to look good.
No, like dog scratches and
no dog scratches, no dog anything right there. Speaking of dogs, people have a fear of dogs. People have a fear of cats. When you're getting a home ready for sale and you're advising your clients, you want to talk about the front of the yard, but you want to talk about the showing of the house and how the house is going to be shown. And if they do have Fido, you talk to the seller about going for a walk, taking the dog out. And even for those who love dogs, I mean, I love dogs, it becomes a distraction.
Right.
So you don't want to distract from the house itself. Yeah. So removing the dog, removing the seller, which unfortunately, you guys who are sellers, you're a distraction. Buyers will clam up when they see you in the room. You want them to be free flowing. They can touch things. The sense of touch is very valuable. with other senses also.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if the seller is the nicest person in the world, the buyer isn't going to feel like, can I look under the sink? Can I do, things like that, which as an agent, of course, we're going to go right for the sink or whatever it is. But, the buyer won't feel as comfortable with that. And so the sellers, you guys should want to get out of the house for a little bit. Go take Fido on the walk. Fido is on team Go for a Walk too. So what are some things that a listing agent or aspiring listing agent can do to set themselves apart from the pack to get more listings?
Okay, so having a strategy from start to finish and explaining that strategy. It's also what you offer. I mean, for example, in the MLS, you could put many, many photos. Some agents only put 10, and they take a photo with their iPhone.
Or the one.
One photo, right, with the one required photo. But going above and beyond, multiple professional photos by a professional photographer, the creation of a video, top-of-the-line video, drone showing the area, especially if it's in a waterfront or an acre or has lush landscaping. It goes a long way. Beautiful brochures for the people to take away. By the way, the brochure itself should never be by the front door, because you don't want the people to pick up the brochure and to stare into the brochure. You want them to feel the house. The brochure should always be given at the end.
Okay. So if the brochures are just laid out for a selling agent when they come with their client, where do you put the brochure?
It should be in the kitchen, probably.
In the kitchen.
And in the kitchen, you should also have a little bowl of candy set out for you're entertaining in the house. Also in the refrigerator, little bottles of water. Miami, it's hot.
Oh my gosh.
So it's hot out there.
It's so freaking hot, y'all.
So if you have that luxury of saying, hey, would you like a bottle of water? You're entertaining in the house. So that goes sort of to the sense of taste. So you have the 5 senses. We talked about the first sense, which was having the seller out, the sense of touch. Sense of taste is that water, the cool water, the candy. Makes them feel good. The seller could bake cookies if they would like, but who ends up eating those cookies are us, and the clients may or may not eat it, but we would eat it, and we don't need that extra weight. So hold off on the cookies, but a little candy, water goes a long way.
Yeah, you're making them feel comfortable in their future home. Releasing a little endorphins with the candy, the little sugar rush. And just making them feel welcome, making them feel comfortable, which
entertaining.
It goes back to kind of, it's not the first impression because they've already walked in, but it's pretty close to the front. I'm not going to wait till the end to offer you water. So okay, I feel like we could do a whole podcast just on listings and talking about listings. At least you could, especially, probably do literally a whole series on listings, but let's switch it up a little bit just to have some fun. Because you're a team leader.
I am.
How many people are on your team?
Well, I have 3 agents who work directly with me. I also have a business partner who is also a listing agent. And then I have a support team. My support team consists of a closing coordinator, marketing director. I have 2 runners. These gentlemen open up doors, they get me lunch, they do everything that I shouldn't be doing.
Leveraging your time.
Absolutely. And then I also have a follow-up guy who makes follow-up calls to get feedback, to set up appointments, what have you. That's strictly what he does.
So that's 9 additional people I counted there?
Well, if you count my partner, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's 9.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, because I feel like one of the big questions when it comes to teams as far as agents, when you're building the team at the beginning, when you go from 1 to more than 1,
right.
What was important to you to add to your organization to start that growth?
Okay.
What was like the first role that you went for?
I think the first thing is to figure out what your strengths are. I knew what my strengths are, and I still know what my strengths are. I may appear to be organized, but I'm really not. I force myself to be organized, but I also hire people who are organized, who can get things accomplished. Where I am really good at negotiating a contract, I'm really good at, let's say, showing up a property. But the day-to-day phone calls to make sure that oh, did they make their deposit? Did they set up inspections? All of those items, I can do it without a problem. But if I am doing that constantly, I cannot go on other listing appointments. I can't show property. So outsourcing, which we talked about, is an important aspect of anyone's career. I don't clean my own pool. I don't cut my own grass. I outsource that so I have the time so I can do other things, which are money-making items. So,
yeah, I find that really interesting because that the whole concept of the team, there's like this mystery to it, you know, like if you haven't built a team, it's like, how do I start? Where do I do? You know, and some people will say, you need to get a transaction coordinator first, or you need to get a buyer's agent first, or you need to do X, Y, and Z first, right? So it seems like what you're saying is it's more important to realize what your strengths and weaknesses are to determine what that first addition to your team will be.
So let's say you are not that good with buyers. Okay, and what we talked about the time period, and you have 5 listings and the calls are coming in. They're going to be dropped. They're being lost. Outsource it. You don't have to necessarily have a team member, but there may be another agent in the office who would pay you a referral fee for that buyer call. So that's an inroads or the beginning of the steps that you can take to one day have a team itself. You can also outsource a closing coordinator. There's great closing coordinators out there. I think they charge anywhere from $300 to $400 per file. You can outsource that, and it's like they're your own assistants. They take it from contract to close. And once you get a lot more going, you can then go eventually to have your own in-house. So it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. For me, I hired a part-time person. But this is back so long ago that today a lot of the things that that assistant did, I could do it on my phone through CRMs. You could do a lot on your phone itself. Where back then, my calendar was a book that I wrote down in. My addresses were written, or my phone numbers were all in that same book.
No Rolodex.
Oh, well, people did have Rolodex. I actually, if she's watching, Laura, every year would write down all of my important numbers in my book. Every year she would copy. At the end of the year, it was a process that she did. She's an attorney now. And that's what she did. And she was with me for years. And every year, even after she left to go to college and all that, she would come back and write it in for me. So time has gone on, and now a lot of the things that, if you sold 20 homes in 1990, I mean, that's just phenomenal numbers. So today, with technology, an agent can sell 100, 200. Some of these mega teams that really just pump out the volume and the business. And at the same time, because of technology, they don't give up that relationship aspect of being with the client. I could tell you, my sellers do not know that I have another client. Because of technology, I can communicate with them via text, via phone call, via email, via regular mail, by a pop-by. There's so many ways of still communicating with a seller or a client in general that it's an ongoing thing. So if I'm in the middle of the night, I'm sending text or an email, it can be done. And you really truly want to just touch your client in some ways all the time, and including your past clients or your sphere of influence in general.
So it sounds like, and I know the answer to this, but just for the audience,
I hope I know the answer.
No, it's just it sounds like real estate nowadays is more about the personal connection between whoever the agent or broker is and their client, versus where in the past it was more like kind of treading water just to keep up with everything and trying to do things in a way where you could just get those 20 sales, kind of just get by. Whereas now it's like, all right, how do we take it to the next level?
I think technology has allowed us to take it to the next level. But I will say this, even relationship building is what it's about. People I've sold homes with 30 years ago, I still am in touch with them. Just the way I'm in touch with them now is different. I mean, cell phone, we didn't have cell phones. I had a beeper when I first started, a beeper.
Did you have a car phone?
No. So 1989. No, I think, I don't even know what year I got my first portable brick phone. Yeah, but oh no. No, in fact, things have changed so much. I remember that real estate, every 2 weeks, we received a book. And in MLS book. And in that book were all the new listings. So if we were working with a client, a buyer, we had to wait for that new book to come in with all the new listings, and we had to flip through the book to find what was available.
Right.
Shortly after that, I mean, we then got our first computer, a dot matrix, that the page would come out like
Yeah.
And you ripped it off, and you had the new listings. So times have changed. We facsimile. Our contracts were 3 pages, but it's really 1 page, and we had this carbon paper in between. So you write on the top, and you pull out the other 2 pages. So things have changed from the 1 pager that we had then. Average contract today is like 20-something pages.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 pages easily. So things have definitely changed in that respect too. So the knowledge, not only do you have to know what you did then, today you have to implement much more.
Yeah.
And I think that goes along with it is you have to remember the nuts and bolts of how you got to where you are. You still have to know the basics, and then today you just amplify even more.
Yeah. So do you think that overall that progression has sharpened the edges of agents, made them better? Or do you think that that's maybe a double-edged sword in some cases with certain people? Or how do you feel about the rise of technology and how it has either improved or not improved individual agents or the industry as a whole?
I think for those agents, and there are plenty of agents out there who have never embraced technology. There are still agents who, I'm going to say, will send an email as opposed to, and have the client will have to sign the contract, or they'll drive over to the house. For time, you can do electronic signatures now. I mean, once again, I'm in Madrid and I have a contract that I have to negotiate. I pick up the phone. I know it's 6 hours time zone difference.
Right.
And I can then turn around and send it to my client who's sitting in their family room, and it'll pop up on their iPhone.
Yeah, boom, instant.
Yes.
Halfway around the world.
And with technology, understand this, that technology's allowed things to get done quicker. It allows things for a buyer. They're emotional, and they make an offer on a property, and the seller says, okay, I'll accept it. But sometimes it takes time, or it used to take time. We'd have to go back and forth via car. A day, 2 days would go by. Now, electronic signatures, it can be done in minutes.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction that a buyer knows that they have it, and the relief that it's done, that they go in, because remember, a buyer is emotional. They walk in and they say, I love it. This is my new home. Where the seller is no longer selling a home, they convert that home into a house. You live in a home and you sell a house.
Right.
And you know that a seller is ready to go when they're talking about their house as opposed to their home. So when they depersonalize it, and that's part of the process, when they depersonalize the home, because they have to move anyway, so they might as well start packing. They depersonalize it, bring down all the pictures of Aunt M and what have you, and it becomes a house. But the buyer coming in, it's their home.
Yeah.
And they become emotionally attached. Yeah. And that's really important, that emotional attachment.
Yeah. I want to go back and to the subject of the teams for a second, because there was I had a question as far as that goes. Were there any lessons that you learned, maybe things that you didn't do as well as you could have done as far as the structuring of your team or the growth of your business, the scaling of your business that you maybe did early on, or it doesn't even have to, could have been last week or something, but what are some lessons that you've learned from that process?
I could tell you that's another podcast.
Yeah.
Because the amount of assistants I've had over the years, it's not that many. I mean, a couple of my associates have been with me close to 20 years. So, but growth and understanding, I have come to the realization that, let's say an agent on my team, they will want to fly one day. And you have to understand that. You have to understand you want them to fly. You want them to have that growth, and if they feel that they're ready to go, you have to embrace it and understand that. At the beginning, it was little concept that I didn't understand. My current partner, for example, he came from a Craigslist advertisement for a marketing director. He came in and I said to him, "What is your goal?" He said, "My goal is to become a real estate agent." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to train you as my marketing director and have you turn around and leave in 5 months." I said, "You have to stay with me for a year. Would you be willing to do that?" And he said, "Yes." A year and a half later, he said, "I'm now ready to become a real estate agent." He stayed on my team. Things happened. He was in the right place at the right time. He's now my business partner. So growth and understanding that people do want to achieve other things, that some people do want that thrill of not having a paycheck every month and want to be a real estate agent. That's really what it comes down to, is being your own boss. And people think that being a real estate agent, you have nothing but time. Back to time again. Understand your time is dependent on what your clients. So if the client wants you to come to an appointment and it happens to be your daughter's birthday, you want to schedule it, but your spouse or significant others need to understand too. You may be 30 minutes late just because you're showing a property and they fall in love. You can't run home to the party right then. Sometimes you got to get it done right then. If time goes by, someone else may come in and buy that house. So understanding just the overall concept. One more thing I want to add. Every time I've added a team member, my business has increased. So the biggest increase I had was in 2003. I had a coach, and my coach said, "You don't have time to be working with buyers as much. You really have to let go, especially on sign calls." Well, we didn't have the internet calls, but calls in general that were not sphere-based. He said, "Let them go. Hire a buyer associate." That year, my business went up 70%.
Wow.
So he was right. I let go, and I concentrated on what I was best at. Once again, time. I could do more listings. I could do other things that would increase the business. And today, obviously, I have 3 agents who are just on my team. I haven't had a very big growth. I have not attempted to add on associates, just add on associates. It's to maintain also that I am personable, I'm available. I have a 2-hour window. If a client texts me, emails me, calls me, within 2 hours, I always respond. That's something that's very important to me, that I'm able to maintain that aspect of my business.
Yeah. So essentially leveraging your time.
Yes.
By not just doing what's logical and makes sense for your business, but also recognizing, like we said before, your strengths and weaknesses, but also more leading by encouraging versus fear. Right. Your teammates, you're essentially, you're their boss at the end of the day. It doesn't feel like that typical boss structure, but at the end of the day, it is. Right. And I know personally from my experience, whether it's bosses or teachers that I've had in the past or anything, you always remember the people, like Maya Angelou, you always, people don't always remember the things you say, but they remember how you made them feel. And I know from my personal experience, the teachers and bosses that I look back on with the most fondness were never the ones that, instilled fear and got what they wanted by fear or by just being an ass, versus, those people also got more out of me, a whole lot more. Way more. And versus the ruling by fear tactic, which is, you're probably going to have more turnover. You're also going to just be, people aren't going to like you, and in this business, in life in general, you don't want to burn bridges because you never know who is going to be on the other side of that next transaction, or you never know who's going around and saying what, and so I think that's a really good point to bring up, all of that.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
I think that negotiations in general, there's different ways of approaching it. I believe that you get much more from honey than you do from vinegar. And when people are like, no, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It should be a common goal is to sell the house. There's no need to lie, steal, cheat. Be honest, be upfront. You get a lot more accomplished.
Yeah.
But I will also say this too, that there are going to be people who aren't going to like you, Jake. They're not people that don't like me every once in a while. Not too often. But there are people out there. I believe that if I can have a 90% acceptance rate, 90%, but the haters, the jealous people out there, that's fine. If there's 10%, great, I made it.
Yeah.
But 90 is still an A.
Yeah.
For those in school, 90 is an A. And that's really what I want to accomplish. I want to be an A person. I'm not going to burn bridges. I'm not going to backstab anyone in any way. I'm going to do what's right. I need to be able to sleep at night. And I think that's the difference. So haters can hate. That's negative energy. Let the people be negative. You want to stay away from negative. In business in general, if you see a negative person walking up to you, turn, walk away. You cannot hold these people up, and they drag you down with them. They'll pull you right into the abyss.
Yeah. Life is too short to spend around negative people. I agree.
That's almost time. That's time again.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't waste your time.
Are you going to give your time to somebody who doesn't respect it or care for it, or is just going to bring you down, suck your energy out? I agree 100%. So in kind of wrapping this up, what are your main tips or pieces of advice to, let's say, like a new agent that's either just got their license, or they're about to get their license, or maybe they're even thinking about their license? How do you start? What do you do? What should they be doing on a daily basis to prepare for success in this industry?
Okay. So one is ultimately an associate's going to need an office that is going to be conducive to them. People look at lead generation, what's going to be given to me, what is my split going to be? Last thing that you should ask for. Number one thing you should look for is education and training. You need to be in an environment that's going to allow you to grow. An environment that is going to be conducive to growth. The money comes second. It'll come. The splits and the whatever will come. But if you put yourself, when I first got my license, I interviewed 6 different offices. I'm sure you did the same. And I chose an office. I broke it down to 2, and I chose the office that, one office I didn't choose, the manager's daughter was in my wedding party. So I was kind of close to her. I knew her very well, and she's the manager of the office. But I didn't feel that their education and their training was going to be good enough for me. No regrets. She didn't talk to me for many years. We do talk now. But the office I chose it based on the training. I happened to leave that office 9 months later, but I got what I felt was amazing training, great base, and made many sales there. So it worked out. They were happy. Well, they weren't happy I left, but they were happy as far as financially. They got the money back for what they educated me with the education. But I think for new associates, I think you should remember it to be full-time, because doing this part-time is not fair to any seller or buyer. A seller wants you to be full-time in the mix doing it, and if they call you, they want your attention. Same with a buyer. They may be, if you're working 9 to 5 and they want to see a house at lunchtime or 2 o'clock, it's kind of not fair to them. And there is a difference between real estate agents. They have that 80-20 rule. 20% of all real estate agents doing 80% of the business. Be one of the 20. Get in there. Look for opportunities. Some offices have what's called floor time. Some offices have the ability to hold open houses on other agents' listings. Opportunities. Shadowing. Producers. Fantastic. Learning the nuts and bolts of the business itself. Education, God, I cannot harp enough on education. Knowing what you're doing, you're going to feel that much better when you go on an appointment. Mm-hmm. That you feel that you can land it if you can answer the questions. You're not going to be as shy.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, this has been a very great experience. I think everybody out there got a lot of tips, a lot of things to think about, and good advice. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
And if this is your first video, guys, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And I'll drop Anthony's website below as well, so you can check him out, follow him on social media. And we look forward to bringing you the next Jake Fletcher Show podcast here. And remember to sell smart, buy bold. We'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Peace.